Every gaming era has seen its fair share of innovations. But these innovations and massive strides in the industry would not be possible if it weren't for a handful of people with a new vision. Whether it's through gameplay mechanics, genre melding abilities, or simply being a staple of a particular genre. In some cases, they've been praised and got the recognition they deserved. There were also instances where they've been rejected, misinterpreted, or flat out ignored, but not today. I'm Josh, welcome to HotFix Gaming. Today we're bringing you 10 video games that were way ahead of their time. So, let's get started. Number 10. Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark was released in 2000 and it rocked the gaming world. Sure, it didn't have the initial impact of GoldenEye since it wasn't a 007 game, but it did show that the formula established by the greatest Bond game could be applied to just about any shooter game and work amazingly. To say that Perfect Dark was ahead of its time would be an understatement. Games today are still using the same basic design concepts that this game helped develop. For example, creating open-ended levels that include multiple objectives that the player had to figure out. Creatively, Perfect Dark is still outdoing many first-person shooters that are being made today. Just take for example the way difficulty is raised in the majority of modern shooters by simply making enemies that are just better at killing you. You usually have the same objectives and levels with AI that are more effective when they shoot at you. But in Perfect Dark, upping the difficulty means that there would be both more objectives and new areas that you needed to utilize. 9. Magic Carpet. Bullfrog's Magic Carpet was a fantasy flight combat game where players had to gather enough mana to restore the world. Despite the flight element, the game wasn't really about the flying itself. You could easily control your carpet and it only took a few minutes to get used to the command. Plus, you could never crash or land, so the flying bit was pretty easy. Magic Carpet was about the strategy and the action. The basic concept was beautifully simple, but as the game progresses, you had to use the increasingly sophisticated spells to full advantage. What really set the game ahead of its time were the graphics, which were truly revolutionary. You had deformable landscapes in real 3D, water reflections and translucency, and incredible speed. Games like From Dust would employ Magic Carpet's features to great extent in the future. 8. Shenmue. Over the years, many people have changed their opinion about Shenmue and started to think that the game was a bit overrated. Players new to the game would find it slow to get going, the quick-time events crude and storytelling kinda cheesy. But here's the thing, Shenmue is still a revolutionary title. It was the original open city game, and it went into such detail to create a vivid and colourful world filled with people seemingly going about their daily lives. It also popularised the QuickTime event, which would be a feature in several different games in the first decade of the 21st century. The Shenmue games are charming and fun. Which other games do you get to chase people down in a forklift truck? Ryo is also a lead character that despite some iffy writing, you really want to get behind. 7. System Shock 2. System Shock bears a striking resemblance to the BioShock series, incorporating both FPS and RPG elements to craft a distinctive gaming experience. The game introduced the survival horror. It embraced non-linearity within a 3D environment, though it didn't attract substantial attention. Like the Dead Space games, it featured a scarcity of NPCs for interactions, with players uncovering the narrative through discovered logs, such as emails or discs, shedding light on the events within the Citadel station. Players wake up from a coma and must comb through the now empty area to figure out exactly what transpired. You must also use cyberspace to make your way through the game. By interacting with cyberspace, you can help forge forward by completing tasks like opening locked doors. This is all to take down an entity known as Shodan, who doesn't want you to proceed. 6. Crysis. The entire Crysis series is a meme in the gaming community for the fact that it was too ahead of its time. Featuring highly detailed, photorealistic graphics in the early era of gaming, only a few beefed-up PCs could run these games. Crysis was a major jump in the industry in terms of technological enhancements. In truth, no game ever has dared to make a jump as big as this game. This is obviously a double-edged sword, and there are pros and cons to it. When it comes to pros, it has to be the way in which the industry was influenced. Crysis was a masterpiece from an artistic and technological viewpoint. Crysis increased the expectations of the players and made other developers try out new things. Graphics card developers started building equipment that could run a game like this one without dropping FPS, while developers started enhancing their own engines so that they could compete with what Crysis did. This was also probably the first game that used things like volumetric lighting, fog rendering, foliage rendering, and depth of field. In fact, shadow rendering was something that did not exist in such details before Crysis. This game pretty much invented the idea of a destructible environment. 5. Jurassic Park Trespasser. Jurassic Park Trespasser was a wildly ambitious immersive sim before the term was popularized by Deus Ex creator Warren Spector. It featured an entire world overrun by dinosaurs, governed by physical realism. Unfortunately, the game's execution left much to be desired, as it suffered from numerous glitches and impracticalities. The primary mode of interaction involved a physically modeled floppy arm controlled by an intricate combination of mouse and keyboard inputs, making gameplay cumbersome and often frustrating. The game replaced the conventional video game heads-up display with a unique health indicator, a gradually filling tattoo on the protagonist's left breast. Nowadays, physics-driven worlds are standard in games, but it wasn't until the current generation of VR that Trespasser's vision finally bore fruit. Anyone who's familiar with it and has played Bone Lab or Boneworks will see the resemblance. The springy physics, the sometimes finicky player body modeling, and the noodly, recoil-heavy guns work intuitively now in VR. VR games even commonly draw their HUD on the player's body, although through lessons learned, it's usually an arm or a wrist instead of the chest. 4. Half-Life. Released in 1998, Half-Life materialized at a time when the FPS genre was at its infancy, consisting almost entirely of loud, obnoxious games, all of which heavily inspired by the likes of Doom and Wolfenstein 3D. Half-Life was relatively slow-paced, taking the time necessary to construct a comprehensive universe in which the action could reasonably take place. The result was a comparatively realistic shooter which prioritized storytelling and atmosphere over mindless carnage, and in which particular attention was paid to the articulation of certain narrative themes. Wolfenstein 3D may have been the first FPS, and Doom may have been the most prominent, but Half-Life perfected the formula in ways no one could have possibly predicted. It was something unlike anything that had come before it, and continues to be relevant as well as tremendously influential to this very day. 3. Super Mario 64. In terms of 3D gameplay, the 90s were an awkward, transitional phase for gaming. The vast majority of companies struggling to make the jump successfully from 2 to 3 dimensions. Released in 1996, Super Mario 64 managed to successfully integrate gratifying gameplay into a 3D environment, pioneering 3D platforming an entire decade before it would become otherwise perfected. To date, the game completely holds up, besides a few camera issues, and is generally considered the best in the series, despite being released almost 3 decades ago. The game got nearly everything spot on, preserving the personality of previous 2D installments, while emphasizing exploration within a non-linear 3D environment. As such, the game is considered an archetype of the genre, and one of the most influential games ever made, released several years ahead of its time. 2. Resident Evil 4. The original, not the remake. Resident Evil 4, the 4th installment in the franchise and the first to include third-person camera perspectives, as well as more action-orientated gameplay, was way ahead of its time. Something of a hybrid, the game represented a pivotal moment in the series, in which focus shifted away from the conventional survival horror elements to a more commercial action-adventure style of gameplay. Released in 2005, Resident Evil 4 was an unprecedented cinematic experience, complete with excellent animations, stunning visuals, and immersive environments. Graphically, nothing could compare, the game looking as though it was somehow made for the following generation of home consoles, but accidentally released half a decade early. To date, it completely holds up, which is a testament to how truly progressive it really was. Number 1. Silent Hill. Silent Hill is, without a shred of doubt, a cornerstone of the horror genre in gaming, with gameplay and presentation that elevated the game beyond the general jump scares of the time. Silent Hill wished to tell a compelling story as well as deliver a different kind of horror, whether it be the iconic location of the game or the psychologically torturous nature of it. Silent Hill was ahead of its time in terms of presenting a different kind of horror than gamers at the time were used to. While the first game in the series is considered ahead of its time, it is actually the second installment that seems to be the most popular one. Of course, you cannot discuss Silent Hill 2 without its iconic baddie, Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is one of gaming's most famous villain characters. Even though he doesn't speak, the lumbering giant still manages to put the fear of God into you. With his labored moans and shambling walk, more than enough to send you reaching for a change of pants. Which games do you think were way ahead of their time? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this content, check out some of our other videos. And as always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in our next video.